much cringe is too much? Hi, I'm Chuck. I'm an educator with a new job this year and a new commute, and this podcast is you along for the drive. This is Drive Time Diaries, me talking to myself most of the time. I do hope to have some guests on the pod at some point. Special educator also in the area. My sister has tentatively agreed to be on a phone call, but I can't get her to nail down a day. So for now, it's just you and me. And I think about Gen Z slang a lot. I probably look it up too much compared to I don't know what. But I know other teachers look this up too. And when you are a high school teacher, a middle school teacher, I think it is more relevant than if you're like an elementary teacher. But so, yeah, if you looked at my Google history, you could see times where I looked up things like 2020 not 2020, that would be bad. It probably did in 2020 also, but most recently, 2023 Gen Z slang, or TikTok slang, or I might have asked ChatGPT to take something that I wrote last spring and translate it into Gen Z slang. That one was probably the worst result, just because of the way ChatGPT it was trained in 2021, so that data was going to definitely be old, and at best it would give you a mid result. But yeah, so slang. I generally try to listen for and look up and use the new slang as a point of being cringe to get the kids to laugh at me mostly. Sometimes I overuse it. Sometimes kids tell me that it actually turns into a point of disconnection for them, because they're just like, why is this 40-year-old man doing this? He needs to just act like a 40-year-old man. And to their point, that's true in some respects. I would call this code switching. So when I am leading a communion meditation on Sunday mornings at my church, and I'm in that role, I am not using my Gen Z slang. When I am working as a youth volunteer on Wednesday evenings, like I'm about to do here in a little bit, I am more likely to use that there, because that's a crossover role with my job in the classroom. When I use it at home, it is I guess when I use it at home, it's because I'm trying to find safe spaces to use it and make mistakes with it before I try things out in the classroom. But where was I going? Oh, so how do I do with that? How cringe am I? That kind of depends on which kid you talk to. Cringe level really depends on who you're talking to, I'd say. As you heard in the episode that I did with my daughter a couple days ago, it's not even a problem of being the cringe. I mean, it's cringe when a 40-year-old man uses teenage slang, but I do it all ironically. I'm in on the joke. I'm not trying
in a quarter
to
mile, take exit 27 for State Highway N, New
like
Florissant
my
Road.
actual language at this point. And so some kids really get into that, and they actually will like teach me and give me some more tips, and they really get into that. Like I said,
Take exit
other
27,
kids,
then merge onto Herschel Road.
they are really put off by that, and kind of pushes them away, which is all to say that it's
Merge onto Herschel Road, then slight left.
difficult to
Take the next left
form
towards South New
super
Florissant
strong
Road,
bonds
then
with
use the
every
left 2
single
lanes
kid
to turn left
in
onto
your
South New
classroom.
Florissant Road.
But to borrow from the
Use
Apostle
the left
Paul,
2 lanes to
you
turn
have to
left
try to
onto
be all
South New
things to all
Florissant
people.
Road.
In the context of his goal, it's to introduce people to Jesus, and to share Jesus in a context that they will understand and relate to, and be drawn to. I'm kind of trying to do the same thing with math, also in this context, and so I have trouble with this sometimes. But it's important for me to remember that some kids I have to completely turn off cringe slang guy and relate to them in other aspects. There's a young man that I have for 2 different blocks that wears camo pants a lot and American flag hats, which also crosses over with part of my real life persona. So with that student,
Continue on South New
I
Florissant Road for
do
1.5
things
miles.
like asked him how he commemorated 9/11, or I asked him what his favorite amendment was the other day, and who the best president was, things like that, because I know that I'm testing that out when I ask that question. But then when I get more feedback from that question, I know that it's obvious that he has conversations like that in his house, and he thinks about that. Also, point, he said the best amendment was the First Amendment, because without freedom of speech and assembly, that you cannot support and protest all your other rights, which I thought was a fantastic answer. Yeah, so that was cool, and that happened in a moment when I was not being cringe and trying to play slang with another student. I had intended to try out all my slang words, but I guess I used them all up for today, and I can't think of any really right now that will fit in the context, and that's probably for the best, because podcast Mr. Baker is a different role, in a little bit slightly more professional role than talking to teenager Mr. Baker. So that probably is working out. I'm in podcast professional mind. And so really being cringe, making fun of yourself, finding ways to get into the interest of all of your different students, are all just ways to connect with kids so that you can get them to connect to your content, to get them to allow you to push them a little bit further to move that needle. And so does having awful, ironic dad jokes and horrible use of Gen Z slang work all the time? No, but it works some of the time, and I think it's fun, and it allows the kids to teach me. It's always good to put yourself in a situation where your students can teach you about things, whether it's slang, whether it's about how to use social media, whether it's about their favorite video game, or a dance, or the Constitution, like I just talked about with that other kid. They're all ways to connect, and so that's what's on my mind today. After initially recording the audio for this episode, I did some more research, kept thinking about it. My phone gave me some ads on Instagram, I think. Maybe it was just listening to me. Maybe it did that thing where your phones know what you're searching on the internet. Anyway, I got served up this email newsletter called the Culture Translator from this nonprofit called Axis. I call them probably a ministry also, because they say that their goal is to help faith leaders to interact with Gen Z kids, which is basically me. So the internet knows what I'm doing between my job at school and my role in volunteering at my church. Anyway, so Culture Translator, I would encourage you to look that up. They also have a podcast. If you're listening here, I know that you like podcasts also. So you can find that on Spotify, Apple, or Google also. Maybe even YouTube Music, which is actually where Google Podcast is going. I just found out the other day. Anyway, so check that out. I'm going to be listening to that also, Culture Translator, just to give me another resource to think about things that kids are thinking about, and just as another touch point to connect with kids. This is really the end of the drive. Thanks for joining me again. Those of you that interact and use the Q&A, thank you for that. And if you are subscribed on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, or YouTube Music, which will be coming, it's not even there yet. Thank you for that too. That's all for this drive. We'll see you on the next drive.